National Fire Radio.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of the National Fire Radio podcast. Before we get started with today's episode, I just want to take a few minutes and talk about a few different things that matter. Things like thank you. Thank you to our community if you're a longtime listener or just your first or second time here on the audio platform listening to the daily podcast. We appreciate your support, becoming part of the community, and making this job better. And so with that, if you have any thoughts, ideas, critiques, people you think should be on the show, or topics or ideas that you want to send forth, your direct line to the show is through our new email, podcast@nationalfireradio.com. Send us your thoughts, ideas, people you think would be good for the show, anything that's on your mind, send it over to podcast@nationalfireradio.com. That's your direct line right to the show. On top of that, if you feel inclined, please leave a review. Give us a 5-star review. That would be fantastic, and we greatly appreciate it. We're working hard to gain your trust and to build a community, so any support that you can give us back only betters the mission. So we appreciate that. Like, subscribe, and share this with your friends and talk about it because it makes the job better. Lastly, I need to mention, we want to talk about the National Fire Radio website, www.nationalfireradio.com. That is where you can get your merchandise that supports the show and the mission and the platform of National Fire Radio. Well, enough about all that. Let's hop into the daily episode. So thanks for tuning in. See you at the next one. Now, the daily episode. Our first sponsor of the podcast, Taylor's Tins. Taylor and his crew have been manufacturing helmet fronts, aluminum helmet fronts, since 2017. Over 200,000 plus shields have been manufactured by Taylor and his crew. Custom helmet fronts shipped within 24 to 48 hours. Whether it's one piece to a 500-piece department order, they'll get them out under 2 days. They're doing incredible work, 100% customizable product. Their product is top shelf. Not only are they doing aluminum helmet fronts, they're doing gas cards, playing cards, keychains, medical cards, and charts. Pump charts, street signs, custom signs, banquet awards, you name it, they're doing it. Go to taylorstins.com, and if you do order, use this promo code, NFR sent me, all one word, NFR sent me, and you'll get 15% off at checkout. That's because we have a strong relationship and friendship with Taylor from Taylor's Tins. They've been a longtime supporter of the National Fire Radio platform, and I appreciate their support and friendship. Without further ado, the daily episode. Hey everyone, Jeremy, National Fire Radio, back on the podcast today. Today is going to be just a wild episode. I cannot wait to introduce the National Fire Radio world to Stephen Eller. This guy, let's just break this down. He's driving in a Jeep Cherokee right now. We're going to hop into the story about the Jeep Cherokees, and he just told me a story that I literally fell out of my chair laughing about. 12 years in the fire service, 10 years career, which I love because a lot of times we're talking to senior guys that have been on the job for 20 plus years. Eller is going to bring a whole different point of view today. This guy's dialed in, loves the job, loves to train, throws tools and equipment in the back of his pickup truck every weekend and takes off for the weekend to go cut roofs, do searches, force entry. This guy loves to get dirty, loves going to fires, and just loves the fire service. Fountain Inn, South Carolina, engineer Stephen Eller. Thanks for joining me, buddy.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me.
Eller, you crack me up, dude. I have to tell you. So quick story. We met you several years ago. Rob made a connection with you several years ago. We end up doing a trip down to South Carolina to do one of our on taps. This is at least 3, if not 4 years ago when we did this trip. I think it was like 3 years ago. Because that trip, when I was away, we had a big fire in my first day at church, but the Catholic church I grew up in burned down on that trip. So I missed that trip coming to see you, just so you know. Anyway.
Well, glad you came.
Yeah. I enjoyed myself, trust me. We had a great time with you and your crew down there. You showed us around Fountain Inn. We had a lot of fun with you during the day. We did we did an on tap that night with Dave Mellon, I think was our speaker at that event. It was just fun to be down there, change of scenery, South Carolina. We had a blast. But your department, man, it was like, you guys are like the American fire department, I think. And I mean that in a way that it represents exactly what most middle, suburban, rural, like on the rural, suburban, a little bit of urban, on that cusp. You have what? You're putting on 9 guys now per shift, right? Career job,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, July they should be hiring one more for each shift, bringing us up to 9.
And so I think this conversation today and your department and how you guys operate is very representative of like what most America looks like when it comes to the fire service these days. And for you, man, like 12 years in, 10 years with Fountain Inn, you love it. You were beaming before. You're going through some interview process, and it's only to stay with the boys.
Let's stay with the boys.
Talk to me about that. Are you okay talking about that? Like, I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to jinx your interview process, but it's just so cool, man. Like, you were so nonchalant and matter of fact. You're like, hey, man, somebody's got to do it. I think I'm ready, but like, I don't like. I love that. I love that. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so I've never been one to chase a title. I don't care what. I think informal leadership is the best form of leadership.
Love that
because you don't have the awkwardness of when you take an issue to the captain, if he sees it being an issue that he has to take it to HR or write paperwork on it. Yes, as an informal leader, I can have a fireman come to me with an issue and we can resolve it or go handle it or go do whatever. And as long as it's nothing extremely serious, it doesn't have to go above me. So I always felt, even as a fireman, I felt informal leadership was the best.
Where'd you get that from?
No intentions.
Did you have a boss or somebody? Like, was there anybody that was influential, though, in, like, watching somebody in your first early years, like, that they managed that way?
Yeah, so he was a sergeant now. I believe he's a lieutenant, but he's at my volunteer department in Belton. I work part-time there, too, but his name's Darren Vaughn, and he works for SLED full-time, but that's how he is. If I had to relate him to a leader that would make sense to anyone, it would be, Major Winters from Band of Brothers. That would be his type of leadership. So
wow, that's cool.
So we had a lieutenant spot come open on my shift. The way it works is there's 6 engineers total with the department. If it's not one of me or the other engineer, Jason Boyer, if neither one of us get it, then we have to go to one of the other shifts. So initially, I had no intentions on applying for lieutenant. When they told us there was an opening, I was like, I'm out. I'm happy on the ladder. I'm happy on the engine driving, whatever I am that day. I'm happy as an engineer. And they informed us that if it wasn't either one of us that got promoted, then one of us would have to go to another shift to fill the engineer slot. And I decided then that I would test and go through the process to stay with the boys. So
I love that, man. I mean, you must have a really good group then.
Dude, they're the best. One of them I went to high school with, so me and him, he was younger than me. He is still younger than me, but he was in a lower grade than me in high school. We went through our first basic firefighting classes and everything else together. And I give him crap because he started with us, and then he left to go work at another department. And then he came back, and then he left to go because he watched a lot of Chicago PD and he wanted to be a cop. And then he came back. So I give him a lot of crap because he's like a revolving door, but he's probably one of the best firemen I know.
That's awesome, man. So how important is that, right? How important is that to have just a great crew that you mesh with, man? Like, I just know that when you have the right crew on the engine or the truck, everything ticks. It's just so good.
It does. Because if you don't have that, it makes because we do 48-hour shifts and we're off for 4 days, so we do the 48-96. And if you're on, I'm not on a bad shift. I don't think we have any bad shifts. But if you're on a shift where you don't mesh or mingle well with the others, you're kind of like ousted, or you could be ousted to yourself, just like sitting out in the bay training by yourself or reading books or whatever, just to make the time. It make you miserable.
Yeah, talk about training by yourself, man. That takes initiative. Where does your initiative come from? Because you love to train. Like, the one thing I know about you watching from afar, you and I, we chat every once in a while, through text or something, right? Since we met and so on, but we really don't talk much. But I watch, everyone that I know, believe it or not, I see what's going on. I like to see what's new to them. I like to see where they are. I knew that you have a new home. I know that you're traveling and teaching. I know all these things about you only because I'm watching. And I don't mean that in a weird way. I mean that in a way of endearment, meaning you're special to me. You're somebody that I'm keeping an eye on. And in fact, I think you're an absolute up-and-coming rock star of this industry. We need guys like you with 12 years in the fire service to be as in love with it as you are. Where does that come from?
So a lot of who I am, I believe, came from where I started. So out of high school, or in high school, I started in a firefighter program my senior year, and the teacher of it I had known a long time. His name was Luke. His name's Luke Riddle, and he was a fireman at Anderson City. He left there to become a career center teacher, and he was part-time volunteer at Belton where I'm at. So I grew up in the fire service. My dad was a lieutenant for years. My mom was a paramedic. That's how they met. That's where I
Got it.
came from. So I've always wanted to do it. Being in his class really like set it in stone. And he got me an application as a volunteer. So my senior year of high school, when I graduated, I was already fighting fire with them. I had started that October or whatever because I had my basic fire in Fire One. So Belton has always been very aggressive with training. They've been very proactive. The chief, Brad Manus, phenomenal officer. He's always been big. He's always been really big on training, and it's a one-man department. They cover the city of Belton's 3 square miles, but they cover out in the county a little bit for automatic aid with
Right.
the surrounding county stations. So we get a decent amount of work, whether it be wrecks or fires. But as a one-man station, or even with a part-time or two, you got to have that drive to push yourself to get in some type of training, something that's not sitting in front of a TV watching an old VHS or YouTube videos, some legit stuff.
Yeah.
So his pushing us on Monday nights was probably what started it for me, because when I started, meetings started at like 7 o'clock. It was the second and fourth Monday, and there was nights I'd go home at midnight, 1 o'clock on a school night, because we was out doing RIT drills, or we was out doing firemen through the roof drills, or stuff that for around us no one else was doing, and it really set it in stone and started that drive. So I would attribute it to that, and I would put him as, I have a list of mentors I've wrote down and why they're my mentors, and it stays in a book taped to. It's actually, I ripped it out last year. It's taped inside my locker, so when I open it, I have that, some personal core values and stuff. So I have my list of mentors, and Darren and Luke and Manus are definitely in the top 3 of that. So
That's crazy that you just said that, because as you're talking, I'm making notes, and the one thing was I was going to say, man, you're full of recognizing who have been influential in your upbringing in the fire service. And not only that, but I think, how old are you?
31.
So not only that, but 12, I mean, like 19 years old, you started this journey, right? And then you get hired at 21. Like you're still growing. I don't mean that in a weird way. I mean, but you're still growing up. Right. So not only were these guys influential in your fire service career, they probably influenced how you became a man.
They taught me a lot of life lessons. We used to sit down and we would have life lessons with Eller around the kitchen table at Belton.
I want to sit in on those. I like that.
Oh man, Brady Norris, he's a assistant chief in Oconee County up in another part of the state, and then you got Ryan Sams. He's a fireman at Gant. Ryan was full time at Belton, and Brady was part time, and I would always go up there on their days. And then a guy named Brad Stevens and Gene Harris, we always have life lessons with Eller. And I definitely say, if it wasn't for that core group and the ones I'd already mentioned, I don't think I would be a fireman today. I'd probably be stuck riding an ambulance somewhere miserable, hating life. But here I am. So I definitely have to say it. Yeah.
You get the hang of these guys still? Like, are they still part? Yeah,
so,
go ahead.
Several of them are. Brad Stevens, he's honorary. He retired. He's honorary at Belton. Ryan, he's doing a lot more at his full-time department, so he left. Manus is now chief. When I started, he was lieutenant, and Darren's still around, and I still see like Ryan and Brady and Manus when I'm not, or Ryan, Brady, and Brad Stevens.
That's
when
fun.
I'm not around the fire department. We still get together a little bit. So.
I love that. I love seeing guys that were younger when I was there, and you know, and seeing where they are today in their careers. It's very fulfilling for me to witness that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this then, since mentorship was so important to you, do you find yourself at 31 years old and 12 years in the fire service, do you think that you're beginning to mentor others behind you?
I think so. I hope I am. A buddy of mine, I don't remember, I think it was Julio or Manus, either way, they said each one teach one.
What was that? What is that?
Each one teach one.
Love it.
meaning that each person should be able to teach one of the other their core friends, or however you look at it. But like you said, I do a lot of traveling. I've been taking a lot of classes, not just teaching, but taking classes, and I try to bring it back to where I work and find ways to apply either what I've learned from other instructors teaching or what I've learned from a class to the guys I work with. And that's one of the reasons I want to stay with the boys is the at headquarters, I've got John Santoro. We got a new guy who just got out of the Army, and just this is his first fire job. He just got all of his certificates to be a fireman. His name's Clay Campbell. You got James Moore, and who else is Landon Epps. Those guys, I hope that I can leave a little bit of an impact on. Maybe not throughout their entire career, but just like they go up to a door and they're like, oh, Eller said to do this. Let me try that. It actually works. Now I can take that when I retire or when someone else starts new, and they've now can mentor someone with what I taught. So
yeah,
to some extent, I hope that they're picking up on some. I hate talking about myself. I don't like it, but
no, I understand that.
I think in some ways,
but I think it's important that you recognize that, your message, your passion, where it matters is because you're paying it forward. And I think that you're serving justice to the guys that spent time with you, and now it's your turn to start spending time with others. And that's truly how that works. And any foundational brick that you leave behind for another guy, they're going to be able to build upon, make it better, craft it, turn it their way, and then deliver that and let everybody know that it came from Eller, but it's got my twist. And I think that's the fun thing about what we do. And as we go up the line with the different generations and the guy coming up behind us, is being able to share those ideas and experiences and know-hows, and then let them expand on them.
Yep.
Yeah. So traveling wise, I know how important training is to you. I watch you on social media throwing saws in bars, and just when we started this podcast, you were picking up from ripping up a subfloor at, I guess, your buddy's house, you said?
He left originally. He worked with me. I got him hired at Fountain Inn, and he left to go be a deputy, and that was somebody Landon and him's best friends. But anyway, he called me earlier today. He's like, "Hey, you think you could help me? I'm doing some remodel." I was like, "Yeah, I'll come over." He goes, "Bring a really big crowbar." I'm like, "All right." So I brought my crowbar, and we was ripping up subfloor all day. We just finished when you called, so it kind of worked out.
That's wild. I love it. But traveling with your pro bar, and my point being is you travel for training. Wherever you can get your hands dirty, you want to be.
Yes, sir. I try to plan my year out. I've got a planner that I put all the trainings I want to take, and then I look on our report software. It has a calendar where people will put in their off or whatever. So I try to plan out my trainings around our shift, so I'm not messing anything up. We're short staffed or anything like that. So I got a full year already, I think. Last time I looked at it, between some rope tech classes at USAR and a couple other things.
So is that new for you, the tech?
Yeah, so I've always had a little bit of a passion for rope. Like as a kid, my parents thought I broke my neck one time. I was climbing jungle gyms using a garden hose, and I was rappelling with a carabiner, and it came untied, and I fell on my head. So I watched a lot of Emergency growing up, wanted to play with rope a lot. I'm not like real big into mountaineering. I don't think I want to climb any mountains, but I enjoy the technical rope aspect. So
that's cool.
Another good mentor from Columbia area, Jason John Needus, he got me talking to taking a Sprat rope technician class earlier or later last year. And after I retested, I passed it in November. And if you haven't ever looked into Sprat, there's a lot that's outside the box that can benefit the fire service. So,
what's Sprat? What is Sprat? Break that down for me.
So, let me look at the technical definition while we're talking. But it's a lot of it's like rope access. So
okay.
Your people who working at height in the industrial side of things.
Right.
There's Sprat, and then there's IRATA. So Sprat is the version for the United States, and then the IRATA, you can use it outside of the United States. So that's not it. I'm looking it up. I'm going to their website.
No, listen, man. If you're hang on, I can look it up too. I mean, that's not a big deal. I got it right here. So.
There we go. Society of Professional Rope Access Technicians is what it stands for.
Okay. Yeah, I got it here.
So
Got it.
there's 3 levels of it, and you get level 1. You've got to maintain level 1 for a minimum of 6 months plus 500 hours of training to go to level 2. Once you get level 2, it's the same thing. You got to have it 6 months and 500 hours of training. And it's like every 2 years you have to go and recertify in your skills.
So does this isn't rescue based? This is just ropes in general then? Is that what this is?
It's just ropes in general. So
Yeah.
what we did were basic stuff. We did ascending and descending ropes. We didn't use any like bar racks or 8s, anything like that. We used the CMC clutches, the Petzl IEs, Maestros, the Petzl chest harness or the chest ascender and hand ascenders to ascend rope. You got to do what's called a mobile aid climb. So or a horizontal aid. You climb up the rope. You have 3 lanyards that attach to different anchor points, and you come off the rope system completely, and then you have to go across the ceiling.
Got it.
On the anchors. So
that's pretty wild.
It's got a lot. Yeah, it's the 3 different levels. It's got a lot that can benefit a department. So my shift's been working on a lot of it in-house recently. So
yeah, I've noticed, and that's what I think is really cool, right? Is that, you put it out there, and I've noticed that you have been getting into this stuff. So I was just curious what the backstory was, but that's cool because you're pushing yourself to do more, and I think that that's admirable, and I think that we need that in the industry, because any guy that's willing to push himself to learn more, do more, will be better on the fireground. My belief.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay, well, I'm glad you agree with me. So
I'm glad.
I love this. I absolutely love it. So talk to me then about like Fountain Inn. Do you have the abilities to do that type of work then?
Yeah, so we have a large industrial facilities. We've got 3 of the Bosch facilities. We've got a 1 million square foot Granger. The potential for those events are definitely there. Whether or not we actually run one's a different story. But
no, I get it.
The potential for the rescue to take place. We used to do a lot of rescue drills with Bosch. They would have one that I can remember is a guy was in one of the forklifts you sit in, and it actually goes up in the air with you sitting in it to retrieve something off of a shelf. And the scenario was he had a medical emergency and you had to get him down. So I'm not a forklift certified individual. I don't know how to run it, but I could go up there and build a rope system and lower him down, especially with what I've learned from this class versus what I knew before. So yeah, it's definitely there to use.
Well, that's cool. Well, that's good. So are you going to pursue it then even further? Like, if you enjoy it enough that you're going to take it further and do more with it?
Yeah, I think so. It's gonna take a little while to get all the training hours, but I definitely hope to. I was in a little bit of a bind personally when I signed up for the class. We were going through some transitions at work, and I was asking them to send me to this class and everything, and I don't think I was as grateful as I should have been, because I was a little ill with how the process was going and it taking so long to hear back and from whoever was overtraining at the time and getting the bill paid. And when I got to class, you can only top out at like 8 or 10. I don't remember exactly the amount of students that can be there, but when I got there, most of us was fire service related, except for one guy, and he was a bridge inspector. And they were talking about how I was in a Chiefs car. I had a hotel room paid for and my department paid. It was like $1,300 to $1,500 for this class. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
And nobody else in the group, their department paid for it, or they had a ride or a hotel. Most of them lived in Charleston, but I had all of that. And I'm like, I really, it was like a kick in the balls for me to have been the way I was about it, being ill, about getting in or not getting in, when there's a lot of other people who's having to pay out of their pocket to do this. So it made me be grateful for where I was a lot more, and thankful for the leadership that we have to pay for me to do that.
Well,
or any of us, if anyone at the department.
Yeah, well, it also comes down to too is, you recognizing that. I mean, it didn't mean you needed, you had to. And, I think a lot of us take for granted some of the things that we have, the resources at our fingertips, while others are scraping to be able to do the same type of activities. And so, for you to recognize that and be appreciative of it after the fact, I think speaks volumes to who you are, right? And so, like, your department, then they see the benefit. I mean, I look at how much training you do, and I look at the training that you post, whether you're working or outside of the firehouse, but you're constantly on the go to better yourself and then bringing it back and bettering the job. Your department certainly supports that, I would assume.
They do.
That's cool.
I've been very, very fortunate for it to have the captain that allows me to do stuff, or even the chief. Or the gentleman you met when you came down, Russell, he was the assistant chief. He's now chief of the department.
Oh, nice.
So he got promoted this year.
Tell him I said hello, will you?
I will.
Did you tell him you were doing this today or no?
I did not.
Uh-oh. You better clear that with them before you get all jammed up.
Oh, they're fine. They're good.
That's just Eller. That's Eller doing Eller things. I was literally just going to say that. That's hilarious. Yes, is that a common theme? Is that a bumper sticker down there in Fountain Inn?
It's a hashtag. I get it from some guys at Belton, one of the full-timers. They recently did a pre-plan of a business, so they went out and he sent me a video of them climbing a scuttle hole through a different spot of the building, talking about here we are doing Eller things in a vacant, checking out random roofs. So
I love that. You know what? It's fun to have that reputation with the guys, because that means that you're doing something right. It means that it's fun and it's enjoyable, but you're actually promoting and doing better, right? You're making training more fun. You're doing it your way. I think character is important, and I think signing your name to the way you do things and the fact that guys get a kick out of that's just a home run, man. That's exactly why we're talking today. I absolutely was looking forward to chatting with you. You crack me up, man. I've been smiling this whole episode. So listen, I mentioned that delicious mustache you have. That's gone, right? We talked about that. Yeah. You miss it? Did you feel saltier that way? Were you like a badass fireman when you had it?
I felt older. I feel like I look like a little kid now.
You didn't get carded. You didn't get carded at the gas station when you're buying a 12-pack, or what?
No. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet. But I felt a little older with it. Felt a little bit more mature. But it got to tickling my nose a little bit, and I would say that I shaved it off because I messed up trimming it, but really I'm sure my lady didn't like it and I just knocked it off. So
yeah,
that's what I'll stick to, I guess.
I get it. I'm right there with you, man. I try to grow them back and I get the looks and then it disappears off my face. So that's just the nature of the beast. But talking about mustaches and making you feel older, I know that you and I, when we first started here, right before we hit the record button, we were chatting about like the generational gap. And I know that that's an important conversation for you because you are a 10-year man in your fire department. You're in the middle of your journey. You're still on the younger side. You got a long way to go in your career, right? So, like, talk to me a little bit about, like, the misnomers or, like, things that maybe we should be doing or conversations we should be having to kind of better our current position between that generational divide.
So, not trying to get off in a squirrel trail or a rabbit hole, whatever. But when I started in the fire service, you heard a lot of people talk about the millennials and they're not doing this, and it's the millennials that, the millennials this. Well, the millennials are now your captains and your battalion chiefs, and your millennials I'm a millennial. They come into work. I get to work at 6:30 typically. 6:37 shift changes between 7:30 and 8. So for 10 years, I've got there, typically an hour early.
Sure.
Your millennials are out there. They're putting in the work to get better. But I think the issue is because you look at the people who said millennials when they were younger and starting, the generation above them said the same thing about their generation.
For
and
sure.
It's just been a waterfall effect pretty much, or a ripple effect. So, the issue that I do see now is you have a generation coming into the fire service that has no, not necessarily life skills, but hands-on skills. They don't know how to run the chainsaws, or they learn by just standing there and watching rather than getting into the drill and getting dirty and learning hands-on. I would love to find a book that talks about how the different generations learn. I would love to learn that, but because this generation that's coming in now, they stay on their phones, I think a lot more than my generation before me, whatever, because they've had it more. So it's hard, and you have to kind of stay with those guys. You gotta take them out in the bay, and you gotta spend hours with them if you're working on a skill, you can't just throw that skill out there and say, hey, we're going to work on forcible entry today, and I expect you next shift to know it. We're going to work on forcible entry, but we're going to start out on the basics of knowing how to properly crush the outward swinging, or how to gap the door, or how the benefit of forks in versus forks out, and then working your way several shifts, and then putting it all into one, and then not necessarily testing them of a pass or fail, but giving them a scenario and sitting them down and saying, hey, you messed up on X, Y, and Z. In a couple of days, we're going to do it again. Remember to fix X, Y, and Z, so that they're not continuing to not learn or progress.
So so then as the trainer, right, you're out there all the time, whether on the bay floor in your firehouse or on the weekends on your own time, teaching and training and learning yourself. We have to teach more than we've ever had to teach before, because now we have to teach the foundational elements of simple, or what we might consider simple tasks that aren't simple to them because they haven't had to do those things before. And so my question is then is part of this disconnect then us being intolerable to the fact that we have to work harder to teach them the same level?
Absolutely. I've seen it. You guys, and I don't think it's on purpose. I think guys just get frustrated, whether they're my age or older, with having to show someone how to start a chainsaw, or how to clear a flooded chainsaw, or how to make the roof cuts. And I think they're used to, just out of habit, with people my age or in a different generation, picking up on it a lot quicker, rather than this new generation that it's a little longer for them to pick up on it. But you can't give up. You got to continue to throw the information out there until they pick up on it. Because I'm not one to write someone off. I hate writing people off. I believe everyone has the potential to be great.
I agree with you.
So it just takes time. Sometimes it takes a lot more time with some than others to get that greatness to kickstart. So you gotta have someone tolerable.
I wonder too, like, who's to say that you have to learn how to start a chainsaw by the age of 16 and not 24? Like, why does that matter, right? Like, if the opportunity doesn't present itself to you as a kid, why can't you still learn it as an adult?
Yep. And that's a good one, because you got people who they lived in a city. They had no reason to run a chainsaw. They didn't have to go clear a driveway or whatever to get out, or they didn't start at a volunteer department that pushed good training.
That's right.
Not necessarily pushed good training, but they didn't start at a volunteer department at all.
So why are we vilifying guys getting hired on the job then, and they come in and they don't know how to start a chainsaw, or they don't understand even simple things. They don't even know how to cut the grass at the fire station, right? Like we vilify these guys. Why?
I think it comes down to those who are teaching or training, or those senior being comfortable and complacent.
Oh,
and
my God, I love this. Go ahead. Go.
I think it does the comfortable and complacency of knowing that, I had a 30-year-old start, and he knew how to do all this. And now I've got this younger guy who's barely over 18 that doesn't know how to cut grass or anything. And now I've got to teach him, but I'm not going to I'm just going to write him off, because if he doesn't know how to do it, he's an idiot.
Yeah. And then on top of that too, or you do show them, but you treat them with such disregard that you basically talk down to them and take away their dignity and value of the situation. Like, that to me is, I think, the worst part, is that we have a guy with experience that has so much to share, but he's only willing to share on the way he wants to, and he's not willing to budge or teach in a different way other than the way he wants to.
Yep. And I hate people who talk down to others, or I hate personally being talked down to. If you're going to teach me, I had this issue when I was learning ropes very early on. One of the instructors in my rope rescue class, he was like, I'm not going to say he called me an idiot, because he didn't, but he pretty much did. I didn't know, I couldn't get how to tie a figure eight or a bowline, whatever it was, down. And he kept making comments about it. And I'm like, listen, you're not here to belittle me. If you're supposed to be an instructor, then simply teach me. If you can't do that, then I ask you to go find somebody else. And he didn't like that very well. So
yeah, you know why? Because guys like that need to be pushed back on. It's called being a bully. And that's where it goes from ball breaking to being an asshole, right? And I think that Eller, and correct me if I'm wrong, or I want to hear your spin, but that's the gray that gets very muddy, where guys think, no, I'm just busting his chops. He needs to know. He should know this. I'm just busting his chops. No, you're being an asshole. Like you're literally being an asshole and demeaning this individual in front of you that wants to learn. He's there to learn, and God forbid he didn't know how to tie a bowline at 18 years old, and it took him till 31 to learn. What's the big freaking deal, man? Teach the guy. You're an instructor. Teach.
Yeah, I see a meme all the time. It talks about, just because someone was an asshole to you starting out doesn't give you the right to be an asshole to someone else.
I just reposted that the other day.
A lot of people get carried away with that because they, not me, we'll say someone else. They started out in the fire service and their senior guys were assholes to them. Well, when they started in their fire service career and now they're senior, they think that's the example that was set. That's what I have to continue. It takes the guys that they had the crappy senior guys who really didn't care and literally bullied them. It takes a strong one to continue to be humble and passionate and find that way to teach others that doesn't involve being a complete asshole. It's possible. Anybody can do it. It's just, you got to be able to know that the example that was set for you is not who you need to be.
I think that what part of what's setting us up for failure in the communication gap that we have is more so on the senior guy that's already there versus the guy that's coming in that wants to learn. It's so easy to vilify this next generation, but we have a duty and an obligation to find a way to teach them. And I think we get too wrapped up in ourselves, in our bravado and ego, to think that we need to teach them more of the basics than you or I might have needed when we came in. And I think that that's a real big part of the disconnect, that it's on the instructor, not the student.
Absolutely. I could not agree more.
Yeah. And so how do we combat that, right? Because I look at you, 31 years old, you're in the firehouse, you're hanging from the rafters on your ropes, you're doing all these different things, you're going out on the weekends and getting dirty and getting yourself into the middle of things. You're pushing yourself to get out there. And when you're teaching, are you learning just as much?
Absolutely. So that's the one thing I enjoy about traveling, whether it be with Julio from Fireground or JJ and Ryan Gates. When we go places, I enjoy the sitting down at the table at night, eating dinner. And I recently met Robert James out of Maryland.
Oh yeah,
from
Capital City. Yeah,
training.
RJ literally,
phenomenal.
He literally just texted me while I'm talking to you. By the way,
phenomenal dude. I love him. I met him in North Florida a couple years ago, and every time it was with he was with one of the guys from FDNY Rescue 2. I can't remember his name, but just to sit down and be around them and listen to the little nuggets they were throwing out, or just the topics they were talking about in an informal way around supper, whether it be a RIT drill or how to force a door or rotary saw work on commercial doors. Dude, I could not. I wish I would have got my phone out and hit record and just record the conversation.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
I love that. That's what I enjoy about traveling and teaching is I learn more than I feel like I teach.
So I wonder then if there's this direct correlation between those that don't better themselves in the fire service are the same ones that are down talking the next generation.
I think they are, because they don't have the drive to better themselves. They think it has to be given to them. So they get, and it might not even be that. It may be they just got into a bad spot. They might have had a crappy mentor that all he did was come to work and use it as a paycheck and an escape from, crappy home life or whatever. And when he got to work, all he did was sit in a recliner after his probationary period or whatever, and was lazy, and he promoted up because there was no one else to promote. However, it worked out. I think it was a bad mentorship from whoever they looked up to, and that's who they become, because you are what you learn from. You could have a crappy officer. It's because they had a crappy officer. So
could you imagine being an asshole in your firehouse and derailing guys' careers because you're lazy or you don't want to find a way to work with the next generation? Could you imagine?
No, I would quit.
Like
I don't understand why people
carrying that burden.
I don't understand how guys that do that come to work.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm just sitting here thinking about that. Like, it is, to me, I had this conversation, I forget who it was on another episode, and we talked about it's a job. People that sideline individuals or down talk the department or the company or shit talks the training and poo-poos it and stays in that recliner, that is a conscious effort to do that, which then means it's intentional. So we have people, as much as we want people to intentionally promote and push the department forward by training and doing all those things, we have people that are intentionally trying to hold the department back and hold individuals back. That's frightening.
It is, and it's almost like a plague. Not necessarily a plague. It's definitely a problem. You got it everywhere.
Yeah.
I've always heard people say, "Oh, everywhere has issues," but until I actually started traveling outside of my state, I realized the same issues I have in little old Fountain Inn is
Sure.
the same issues people have in Orange County, Florida, or out in Texas. My little department, it's a lot. You could see it. You could see an issue a lot easier than you could somewhere with hundreds of employees a shift. But I definitely think that what you were getting at, it's definitely an issue that can plague an organization and bring everyone down. If you have attitudes are contagious, if you have one crappy attitude and you can't get it resolved, it will quickly spread to the others.
And it's intentional. That's the crazy part, right? Because intent matters. And if you're intentional about being a douchebag in the firehouse, and that's just who you are, that means you're actively getting in the way of progress. That means you're actively, intentionally slowing down progress because you're so wrapped up in your own misery. That's crazy.
It really is. And I don't know what you have to do to be so miserable at home to come to work and be so miserable to others, but I don't know. Something somewhere has to be fixed. Maybe,
I know a couple guys that they go home, they probably put lipstick on and high heels, right? I mean, it's just, they get beaten, man. There's a lot of misery in this world, and it comes in all shapes and sizes. But I think that what we need to do to make it a little bit more serious, I was just kidding, but with that, somebody's going to say something. I'm going to get jammed up for that one. So anyway, what I think though about, what I think about that conversation is that to me is a glaring call for help. And I don't know what it looks like, and I don't know if it's a serious issue or just the individual, but when you have somebody that's actively pursuing bringing others down, there's a much bigger demon at play there that needs to be looked at. And I think what's frightening is that as much as we have people like yourself that are promoting the betterment of the job and pushing the job forward, there's actually people that are intentionally and at the same velocity that you're at for the betterment, there's guys that are at the same tempo and velocity trying to bring the job down. And we don't need that. We can't have that. We got to get rid of that.
And it sucks so bad when that person gets into a leadership role, like an officer or even just a company or even a shift commander, where you have, as an engineer, you see an issue and you're like, hey man, what you said or these comments you made, they should be made. It's hard to, it's a conflict. It's a hard conversation to have, but it's a hard position to put yourself in, because you're, as a lower man on the totem pole, you're sticking your neck out there to say something to someone higher up, hoping there won't be any repercussions or backlash from you, basically reprimanding an officer. But it takes some courage, and that's definitely what needs to happen. Is there needs to be someone on a shift that has the balls about them to step up and be like, hey, what you did, what you said, it doesn't need to happen, because it's setting a bad example for those below you, for those around you. It's making us as a shift or department, whatever, look bad. But it's hard to have those conversations.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that, if you are in that position, get the hell out of the way. Like, if don't hold others back because of your own misery. If you don't want to be a part of the good, at least don't hold them back. Just get out of the way. Step aside and let the rock stars blow right through. Because I think what happens is, at some point, the people like that feel that they can't get back. They can't come back because, listen, Eller, like when you joined the fire service, man, you're just like me. We were like head over heels in love with it. I am still in love with it. You're still in love with it. People fall out of love with it. It's okay. It happens, right? Like, but we all come into the fire service. I would say 99% of the fire service all started in the fire service because they fell in love with it, right? Like
Yep.
they found their way there, they fell in love with it, and then at some point, something might have happened to turn them off or to fall out of love with it. It doesn't mean that you can't reconnect with it and fall back in love with it.
Nope, but it's hard. You got to find what you enjoy about it, and you got to stick to it. Because once you get into a position that you fell out of your passion,
Yep.
finding something to draw you back into it is hard. And especially going back to the leadership thing, if you've got into a position of leadership and you're not happy, you're not going to make anyone else happy. You're going to
Yes.
come in, you're going to half-ass your job. You're basically there for a paycheck, and I'm wondering if maybe you need to step down, willingly step out of that position, like you said, let somebody else step up into it. But something around there has to happen, because if you're miserable, you're gonna make everybody else miserable. What is it? How do you find that thing that you're passionate about the job? That's the ticket. How do you
Yeah.
find that for someone? If you're an engineer or a technician, whatever, if you're lower than an officer and you have a terrible officer, how do you help them find what they're passionate about?
Yeah. It's hard.
That's a good start.
Yeah, it is.
That's
But I think it's recognizing that, right? And I also think that candid conversations matter. And I think holding one another accountable is also super
Yes.
important. And I know for you, like, integrity matters, obviously, right? I mean, you and I talked about that
Yeah.
before. Integrity matters. People are after clout. We talk about people that like to teach and instruct on things that they've never been a part of or have done in reality, right? I mean, I know that you mentioned that that's something that is something that irks you to no end, right? Integrity, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
So you see a lot on social media. People post pictures or videos, or they try to start topics on things they know absolutely nothing about, for the reason of wanting to, like, get their name out there or to make themselves look better. I know I post a lot on Facebook and Instagram. I do it in a networking way. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to like beat my own chest about anything. But I think a lot of people do, and it drives me to up the wall for whatever reason when someone's teaching or trying to teach something they know absolutely nothing about, and when you attempt to not necessarily correct them, because I'm not gonna correct you right there. I'm gonna wait till we're like one on one to hey man, you messed this up, and you do that, and they're like flying off the handle about it because they know what they're doing, but they have no idea.
Yeah.
You see it all the time on Instagram or on Facebook, whatever it is now. You see it all the time. People will post, and they have very little experience in the topic, very little real world experience on the subject, but on the internet, to make themselves look good, they're a subject matter expert. But it's
Stroking
I
ego,
could talk
man.
about that all day.
Stroking
is.
ego.
Egos are one of the worst things.
Do you
Egos
have
in
one?
politics, I hate. No, I try. I don't think I do. I try not to.
It's good. I'm just asking.
I'm
not coming at you at all. That's a serious question. Do you, like, I have an ego, but I have an ego about certain things, and I've been able to curtail that over time. When I was younger, I had a much bigger ego, and it got me in a lot of trouble a lot of times, right? And then I also come. Go ahead.
I can agree. I think when I started out, especially so first 3 or 4 years I started out, I was on B shift, and I moved to C shift now. And the captain I have currently, his name is Jeremy Sparks, and I look up to him a lot for leadership advice, and he's definitely on my mentor list for those reasons. But he sat me down, and he's worked really hard on me on, like, humility and things like that. So a couple years ago, I sat down with him and Russell, and I said, hey, these are my goals for this year. I want y'all to help hold me accountable to these, and one of them was to not be as egoish, because if I didn't do it, it wasn't getting done right. And I do think I personally, this is a question from the interview today. They asked you, like, what was your strengths and weaknesses, and this is legitimately one of my weaknesses. Is I thought that not necessarily ego, but if it wasn't done my way, then it wasn't right.
Yeah.
And I've been working on that a lot. So
Me too, brother. Me too. And you're going to be
cool.
working on that forever.
Whew.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 46 this week, right? And I'm still working on that. And it's always been my way unless you could prove to me your way is better. And some of that comes with real world experience and knowing how many times I've been let down. I get let down all the time. I've come to realize that at some point my way is better because I'm tired of getting let down, right? But maybe I'm being let down by people I shouldn't even have had in the conversation to begin with, right? So like you can look into all that and start to break all that down. But it's always been my way unless you could prove to me your way is better. But that's only because I'm a large personality and I have what I like to think is not so much ego as I've gotten older. It's more about conviction. I truly believe, I believe in my thoughts and processes because one, I've put them from theory to practical use and knowledge, right? But I've also had the time to really review it, look at it, and watch it. And what I don't like is when somebody can come in and challenge my conviction and they're not they don't have conviction in their own process or their own method or their own knowledge. And that drives me crazy because if you have something, and this goes back to that generational conversation too. What drives me nuts is if you have a way to do it better, show me. And if your way is in fact better, man, I am your biggest fan. I will be like, yes, this process kicks ass. It's 10 times better when I knew how to do this. You show me this again and let's go show the world. Like, I will then boost you up and build you up. Whereas years ago, I would be like, your ways, even if it was better, I would be so guarded and protective of myself and my own ego and bravado that I would let a better opportunity fall by the wayside because my ego and bravado got in the way. Whereas today, you show me your way is better, and I will promote you and tell everybody what a great idea you had. Different.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more to that. It's definitely one of those. I keep saying one of those. Anyway, it's definitely the ego aspect is definitely a big takeaway. Being able to put your ego aside and do and learn from someone else, like you were saying, that's way maybe better. The guy from my Sprite class I took in Charleston, his name's Don Belt, and he showed me a new way to tie a butterfly knot, and it's like the greatest thing ever now because that's the way I'll tie it. It's so much easier than wrapping my hand. But yeah, I think egos are definitely in politics. They're definitely two issues that are hard to solve.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of that gets in the way, and I think that's what impedes progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what else? Let's talk about the Upstate Rogues. We're about 50 minutes in on this podcast. I like to hold it to about an hour, so we got like 10, 15 minutes left, brother. Upstate Rogues. Okay. Upstate Rogues is you and your training group, right?
Yeah. So I started it in 2017. It actually started as a text group. We had a group chat, whether it be on Facebook Messenger or a text in the cell phone. And it was me, Justin McGill. He worked at Taylor's. Now he's at Parker. Casey Clinkscales. He's a captain at Irmo. Chavis Sexton. He works as a fireman in Anderson City. And Brandon Stroud were the original ones. And then Chief Alexander, he helped me out a lot. And we had a lot that we learned outside of, and that's like any academy. Your academies teach you the core basics for that strong foundation, and it's up to those driven to build on that, or your departments to teach you to build you on that foundation. Well, I'm a huge fan of passing on what I learned to others because we're only as strong as our weakest link, whatever. So we would always share stuff back and forth that we did, whether it be a hose load or we shared videos. I'm big on I wear a GoPro on my turnout coat to video stuff, and it's not necessarily to like fireman porn, but it's at a fire. I'll review it to see what I could work better on. So we always share stuff like that back and forth. Well, in 2017, I was like, hey, let's try. Or someone asked me to come teach forcible entry at their department. Would one of y'all want to go? And then they went, and we posted it on my Facebook. And then somebody else called me, was like, hey, will you come to mine and do this? So we went, and it just spun off from there. And
It's
it's kind
cool.
of died down now. We're all in different places in our life, uh, whether it be promotions or families and stuff like that. So we're not as and when I started it, we still don't, but we never made any profit on it. The
Yeah,
money that went into it all went into props, and I tried to keep it low cost. So a forcible entry class was like $400 or $500. It's gone up now because everything else is going
sure.
up, but still, I think we would have definitely stuck around more if I could have found a way to pay guys to do things.
Well, let me ask you this,
But
because we all have these text groups we're in, and it's just like-minded guys that are just making the job better, and it's our sounding board when we need, some advice or ideas, right, and so on. I have a
yeah,
couple of these groups that I run in, and I guess my point is, though, is the name Upstate, obviously for the state, but Rogues. Why Rogues?
man. So I got into Rogues with from listening to Mark Von Oppen out
Mm-hmm.
of Fully Involved in
Sure.
California. And all of us, I would say, were definitely fire service rogues that were pushing what was normal and pushing the limit as to better ourselves and better others. So I feel like a rogue isn't the technical definition of someone going out and doing something stupid or dumb, but a rogue is the guy that's going to push you to be better. That when if it was your house on fire or you're going to the fire of your career, you want to look in the back seat and make sure you've got a rogue riding with you because they're going to do the work. They're going to push the team to the win.
I love that, and I
So
think
that's where rogue.
Yeah, and I think that absolutely sums up what this last hour was with you. And I think you are Rogue, and I think you are the guy that I would want as a boss in my back seat. I see you nothing but promoting this job and pushing this job further. And we need more 10-year guys like you, 12-year guys like you in the firehouse promoting the betterment of this job and working with the next generation and working with the generation above you and bridging that gap. I think you're doing that, dude. And Eller, I think you're a rock star, brother. Truly appreciate you.
Man, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Hey, I
Mhm.
I sent you those pictures of the Jeep from the fire.
Beautiful. So I was literally just going to ask you that. So let's break that down real quick. We started this podcast talking about you driving back from helping a buddy out and you're in a rental Jeep. Talk to me. Give me this. Give me the story, man. It's freaking hilarious.
It's a really nice Jeep, man. It's got this leather interior. It's heated and
Cherokee,
cool, and
right?
steering wheel's heated.
New Cherokee.
Yeah, it's like a 21. But anyway, so I the sun was in my eyes, and I hit a dumpster in a parking lot, and my truck's in the shop getting some body work. So I normally drive an F-250, and if you ever see a picture of it, it's got a pull-out bed, a pull-out tray in the back with all kinds of hooks and toolboxes and saws. Anyway, it's basically a rescue truck. But anyway, it goes out. It's in the body shop. I'm riding a Jeep, so there's a Halligan in the back, a mini Halligan. There's a bag of rope stuff. There's my turnout gear. We catch a fire out, a mutual aid fire at my volunteer department. So we go. I get there, get dressed. We fight fire. Me and another buddy. We pulled ceiling. The buddy I was at his house, Matthew, I was helping him. We pulled ceiling, and we're covered in sheetrock, and we're soaking wet because the guys on the front porch or the back porch were spraying water over us every time we'd expose fire. We're soaked, covered in drywall, and we step outside to change cylinders, and another fire pops off in our city. So I'm like, hey, let's go to it. Well, we got cylinders changed, and we take off sprinting up this driveway. We get to the Jeep. The engine's in the process of backing up so it can go because it wasn't tied into nothing. So they released us because they had two other departments there. I get spun around. Both of us are still in turnout coat and pants. Our air packs are in the back seat. The Halligans are in the back seat. We get there. When I get out, my seat's soaking wet. It's covered in drywall dust. If anybody from Enterprise Rental Car listens to this, none of it actually happened. This is all made up.
Yeah, it's all made up.
It took me probably 5 hours to clean this thing. And when I got this as a rental, we got it to go to Florida because I went down there and helped Julio with some stuff in his shop. And when I got in this thing, it's got Colorado tags, and it smelled like it had a pound of weed under the back seat. Now it smells like a house fire when I get in it.
That's awesome.
I'll take that one.
That's awesome, man. Well,
it wasn't too bad.
That's hilarious. But I think that just sums up you, man. Like Eller. Hold on. Let me look. It's life lessons with Eller, right? Life lessons with Eller.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time today. Just taking an hour out of your day to to chat with me. It was nice to catch up with you again. Man, stay in love with this job. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm watching from afar, and I love everything that I see. And the conversation today was just a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.
It was. Thank you, man. It was good talking to you. I know it's been a while, but I appreciate the podcast, and I always like looking at the Facebook posts and the takeaways from other departments that y'all put out. So.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And we'll get together soon. So we got there's a ton of things going up, a lot of travel coming up this year. And so on. So I'm hoping to be back down in your neck of the woods. And if we do, we'll certainly get over there and see you. It'd be really good to see you again.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, brother. Hang right there. I'm going to sign off the podcast, and then I'll come right back to you, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Sweet, man. Thank you. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Another great episode of the National Fire Radio podcast. Stephen Eller, Fountain Inn, South Carolina. What a rock star, man. The kid kept me laughing the whole episode. He is a lot of fun. He's full of energy, and he never sits still. He looked a lot better with his mustache, but it's gone now, so maybe he'll bring it back another day. But thank you for tuning in. Do me a favor. Take this conversation, take it back to the kitchen table, and talk about it, because when we talk about the job, we're making the job better. We appreciate you for tuning in, being a member of the National Fire Radio community, and if you have any ideas, thoughts, or suggestions about the podcast, or you want to share your own story, send us an email, podcast@nationalfireradio.com. We'll check it out, and we'll get you on the air. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.